How are we getting on? So today's post, um, this comes out of a conversation with a guy called Nate, and Nate has worked with me on and off over a number of years. What I always like about Nate is he really does take time to think about what he wants to ask and what he wants to talk about when we get on an actual call. Bit of a deep thinker. But a good lad. We always have great conversations. So one thing he sent me a voice message recently. Now, voice messages, guys, keep them short. Like, genuinely, keep them short. From my perspective, if I am receiving information from a client and they're banging out all this, and I'm meant to use this information to then further their program, the service I'm providing, I need to sit with a pencil and paper and make notes on what's being said. Not particularly helpful to me when that could be in a written format and the notes are actually presented for me. Now, saying that, if you're just excited and you have a story to tell, a voice message is great. But if you're looking for actionable, if it's detail person, guys, voice messages, not ideal. Even, do you know what? We'll get back on topic in a second. Even on Facebook there recently, there was a guy, I can't even remember who it was now, I follow, and he posted, I love sending voice messages, but I hate receiving them. It's laziness on behalf of the presenter. The person receiving it has to do all the work. But anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. Anyway, so Nate had sent a voice message. Now, he was telling me about rugby matches. He took a rugby a while ago and he's absolutely loving it. He's doing really well. And they just had the winter break and they just got back into rugby training. And what Nate noticed was his entire demeanor changed. He recognized that he'd actually been in a funk, as he describes it, over the off season. And as soon as he got back into training, it evaporated and he felt better. Now that brings up a few questions. First thing to say is, it's fantastic that he does feel better. It's fantastic that he got himself out of this funk. It's fantastic that he's back doing something that he loves and that he has realized how much he loves it. He genuinely missed it over the off season. So what actually happened? Why did he drop into this funk? And what does that mean to the wider perspective of the human animal? So in my head, in my sort of way of thinking, and I started thinking about this in my early 20s, even before I even considered coaching. I taught a bit of martial arts, but I wasn't doing this as a career. And I came up with this idea of the human animal. Now, I thought it was real clever, but it seems there's about 1 billion other people have also come up with that same term. So it's kind of it's a concept. Now, what I like to think of is it doesn't matter what we're training or what methodology we're using, okay? Behind me, there's Indian clubs, there's a barbell. Over there, there's a kettlebell, there's boxes to stand on. Do you know what I mean? There's gymnastic rings even over there. But the equipment isn't important. You hear so many people saying, oh, I do kettlebell training. I do TRX training. I do yoga. I do powerlifting. So what? Unless you're competitive, You're a competitive kettlebell lifter. You're a competitive power lifter. And yes, there are yoga competitions, which is astonishing to me. Unless you're competing, then you're not doing kettlebells. You are training with kettlebells. And what are you training? What are you going to yoga for? Why are you doing the power lifts? What are you training? You're training this. You're training the human animal. If you're a footballer or a rugby player or a cyclist or a martial artist, you're still a human animal who plays football, who plays rugby, who goes cycling, who does martial arts. So this, your nervous system, your body, you are this human animal, and you, whatever training, sport, whatever modality you'd like to do, it's you that's doing it. So whatever training modality, methodology, whether it be a rehab when you come out from injury, whether it be, rehab coming out from injury, whether it be your strength and conditioning, whether it be your general fitness, your GP, whatever it is you like to do. The only thing that matters is it helps you improve. So if you like shake weights, go and do shake weights. If you're like Nate and you've taken up rugby, you're probably going to need a barbell. You're probably going to need a couple of kettlebells. You're probably going to need a range of equipment. And you're now developing strength, muscle, power for the rugby field. If you're a cyclist, it'll be a bit different. But anyway, it's you, it's your body. We're going off topic a little bit here. So we were thinking about the funk. So, and this happens quite a bit. People take an off season. If you're an athlete, a lot of sports go through seasons. My kids are just coming to the end of their hurling season. They've got league finals all happening at the minute. And then there'll be a bit of a gap. And what do most people do when there's a gap is they take the foot off the gas entirely. You step away. And then the funk sets in. And what really we should be doing is realizing that we train, and training makes us feel good. And yeah, we need breaks, we do need rests, but one of the things that makes us feel good is the movement, is the challenge, the physicality of it that a lot of people don't get in their everyday life. You've got to go look for it. But at the basic of the human animal, as a Homo sapiens, the species Homo sapiens, we're meant to move. All animals are meant to move. You can just about see, if I move this, there she is in the corner there, you see her sleeping away there. There's my wee pup. What would you think of me if I told you that we don't take her out? She just stays in the house all the time. She clearly doesn't. She's here with me in work right now. If you heard a story of somebody who didn't walk their dog, you'd be like, that's cruel. The animal needs exercise. The human animal is no different. We are an animal at its absolute base. And we need challenge. We need that physical challenge. We're also social animals, so physical challenge in a social setting is really good. That's why we've seen, particularly in the urban environment, this meteoric rise of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So physical contact. You can train really, especially by combat sports standards. You're not getting punched in the face, which is the reason I'm so pretty. And, tooth at the front wobbled for nearly 20 years from an elbow strike. So yeah, human animal. We are social animals, and we're animals that, like all animals, require movement. We need to move. We need challenge. If you don't, you've got all these hormones pumping around the system, or pumping around the body, especially your work body. It's not
evolved to these hormones are evolved to agitate us into action, to get us moving, to get us away from danger, to fight danger off, to go and search for food, to move away from the cold. Yet these hormones do elevate our stress response, and that stress response is what gets us moving. Yet we sit, as I am now, at a desk with a keyboard, doing sedentary work. Most of us do. And this sedentary work leaves us sitting stationary, but with the same hormones, the same stress response, and we get a bit kind of twitchy. You finish a day mentally exhausted, but physically primed. But you just, because you're mentally exhausted, you feel exhausted. That there becomes an issue. This left long enough is why stress becomes what we call this silent killer. Excuse me, you've got this agitation, this stress hormone pumping around. And yeah, your body, if it doesn't actually get out and utilize them, sort of burn off these hormones through some sort of physical activity, it does start to break you down. So this is possibly where Nate found himself. He'd gone from a lifestyle that supported both his human being, as in his intellectual work, his study, his learning, his creativity in his work, his human being, this sort of higher level stuff, with the more base human animal, the fundamental needs of the human animal, which is hunting in a pack, chasing an egg-shaped ball and fighting off the opposite tribe, if you like. Rugby. Fantastic game. We, in general, when you listen to self-help gurus and you put on the TV and you listen to, so-and-so who's written a book about being healthy and happy and all that, and we talk very much about the human being and these higher functions of the human being. Not a lot of people talk about the base functions of the human animal, and that's what I like to think. Gotta move, gotta rest, gotta socialize, gotta eat, gotta sleep. Everything else sort of can come later. Looking after the base needs gives you a stronger foundation, if you like. Get a real strong foundation for the human animal to sit on, the human being, to sit on top of. Your higher function stuff works better if your lower function stuff is taken care of. So keep on track here, little Dave. Oh yeah. I have a book somewhere, and I don't know where it is. I've been looking for it. It's by Desmond Morris, and it's called The Naked Ape. And when I read this book, it was just like, yes, it just made sense to me. Where Desmond Morris comes from is he imagines, no, he looks at the way we look at how we identify it and categorize new species. So, like the wee pup down there, okay, 4 leg, hair, warm-blooded, movement patterns, movement, dietary, and all these categories. And we've never really done that. Nobody ever really seems to have done that with Homo sapiens, the human being, the human animal. So Desmond attempts to do that in his book, The Naked Ape. And it comes from the idea of, if I were an alien arriving, how would I categorize this, what appears to be the dominant species on the planet? And that's what we are, essentially, when you categorize it down, a naked ape. We don't have the body hair of our ape brethren, the chimpanzees, the orangutans and the gorillas and all that. We don't have the hair, and yes, we're physically less impressive in terms of strength, but Desmond takes that distance to really categorize what we are as a species at a basic level, and I think it's fantastic. Highly, highly recommend you look that book up. You get a copy of it. Might be it'll be on Kindle, might even be an audiobook, I don't know. Get it, read it. But yeah, the sort of core point is, the more we move away from our naked ape self, our human animal, the faster our sort of well-being declines. So we might live longer, but it's medically supported. Might be less happy, mental health issues are on the rise, anxiety is rampant at the minute. Autoimmune diseases seem to be everywhere. And the medical community just likes to medicate, unless you're Rangan Chatterjee and the few in the sort of same world that he's in, where you're actually looking at lifestyle changes, which is medicalizing these problems. Is your autoimmune disease part of your stress response? It might be, might not be, but that is when they tend to come out, isn't it? When you're under pressure. So if we spend a bit more time outdoors, which field sports are outdoors, running, cycling, outdoors. We're moving now. This is Northern Ireland and it's September. Absolutely hoofing it down outside. You probably don't want to be outside at the minute, so maybe cycle your training indoors in the winter, outdoors in the summer. But even still, get out for a walk. Take the fur baby there for a walk. We'll be out in the woods later. Expose yourself to different environments. We were out the other day and the sun was blazing, it was nice and warm. Brilliant. We'll be out later on today, it's a little chilly and it's chucking it down. We're going to get wet. Brilliant. Give me another month or two and it'll be freezing. Brilliant. Exposure to light, to dark, to heat, to cold, to wet, to dry. Exposure to heavy weights, exposure to moving your body, exposure to stretches in different positions. The more you expose yourself, the wider the stimuli, the more your comfort zone grows and the less fragile you are, the more resilient you become. Your human animal just becomes this unbreakable, wonderful support system for your human being to sit on top of and worry about bills and fucking mortgages and global politics and the latest brand of I don't know, handbags. I have no idea. Human being stuff. Trying to avoid all that as much as I can. But the key point is, Nate identified that when he moved away from his human animal needs, he went into a funk, and we see it an awful lot. We do see it an awful lot. Get out as often as you can outside. If that just means walking, your walk. Go to one bus stop further down. Get off one stop earlier so you just get a little bit of outside time. I know it's not nice getting soaked in the morning when you commute to work so that you're sitting in wet clothes all day. There's a way around it. I always cycled across Dublin in cycle gear and then had either dry clothes in my bag or waiting for me at my location. There's ways of doing it. Winter time's coming, we're going to be indoors training, we're going to be in the gyms and the weight rooms. That's great, but it's still social, isn't it? There are people there you can bounce off. There are guys, this is a very male thing, you've gym buddies. You might not even know their name, but you're just in the gym at the same time, week in, week out, and you become like brothers. Then eventually you know each other's names. You might never meet each other outside of the gym, it doesn't matter. But for that period of time, that's what you are. And that's good for you. Because you're not talking about nonsense and bullshit and bitching about whoever it is did whatever to whoever at work. Just basic conversation around want to spot 3 more reps, good effort. That's all we need. All right. Looking after your human animal, guys. The human being will take care of itself. If you have a comment or a question, if there's something you want me to talk about on these videos and on the blog and the newsletter, drop me a comment, let me know. Send an email in to davehedges.net, which is now here on the screen. Feels weird doing that, but I'm sort of getting used to it. So drop a comment, hit the subscribe button so you know when these videos are coming out, and the bell thing I've found out, if when you press that, you get notified when I put out a new video. You can tell I'm really up to speed on all this technology stuff. I'm a very basic animal. This technology stuff is human being stuff. I'm a human animal, much more so than a human being. But I'm learning, guys. I'm being dragged into the, what are we in now, 21st, 22nd century? Don't even know anymore. 21st century. So yeah, this shaved monkey, signing off, and I'll talk to you next week.